Welcome to everybody and good afternoon. The idea of developing a position paper of Italian business and decarbonization came from the annual forum that in Italy we did every year. This year was dedicated to the transitions in the economy. And working in groups, we decided to put into our agenda for the next year, the 2021, a strong attention on decarbonization processes. And so we decided to approach the issue with a position paper. This position paper wanted to put together different challenges and opportunities linked to decarbonization from the point of view of different sectors and companies in this perspective of the transition towards sustainability and Agenda 2030. In this direction, we organize a working group this year with 3 meetings in which different companies very engaged in this field put on the table question about their approach in this field, the carbon roadmaps, and also question about the challenges and opportunities in this field. And we try to organize this kind of contribution inside this position paper. The paper was structured in 4 parts. The first one is about the context, the second one about challenges and opportunities, the third one about best practices, and then conclusions and recommendations. About the context, as you know, at the institutional level, we have a lot of initiatives regarding the roadmap to the decarbonization. So we have at the United Nations level, at the European level, and also at the national level. As you know, the goal is to increase the commitment to limit to well below 2 degrees the increase in the average global temperature. In this area, we have 2 very concrete plans in Europe. The first one is the Green Deal, made in 2019, in December, at the end of the year, in which there are a lot of resources addressed to climate neutrality. The goal is to achieve climate neutrality by 2050 with an intermediate target of 55% emission reduction by 2030. The second plan is the Next Generation Europe, made in 2020, set up to support European states recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic with a strong focus on climate change, with the investments totaling 750 billion, of which 30% is dedicated to energy transition. Also in Italy, with the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have a lot of resources addressed to climate change, 30% of the 191.5 billion of investment. So there is a context with a strong push in this direction. About the challenges and opportunities, Italian companies identified a number of common challenges related to decarbonization implementation. And so in the paper, we identify some action in this field. The challenges are divided in 2 dimensions, the internal one and the external dimension. About the internal dimension, we have 4 areas: governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics. Each of these 4 areas is very rich of possible action and evolution in the next years, driven by European Commission. Regarding the external elements, the paper underlines important issues. Let me mention only 3 concepts. The first one, it's about financial sector supporting. In the last 2 years, also in Italy, there was a strong attention from financial actors about sustainability, in particular about decarbonization. So this is a very important new actor in some way, especially in our country. The second dimension is about the importance to include social dimension inside the challenge of decarbonization, together with the environmental one. In this field, it's very important also the engagement, the involvement of different actors, civil society, and also consumers in many sectors to be active together in this field. The third dimension is about innovation. Innovation is a very, very important driver in this field. The challenge and the transition to decarbonization is very linked to digitalization, to Industry 4.0, to every kind of new solution and technology in this field. And our 25 best practices, because we collect up to now this level of contribution from the companies directly involved in the paper, we had very good examples of the role of innovation in this field. The conclusion of the paper were identified from the inputs shared by the CEOs, because we organized our last high-level meeting on this field, in which we started from the paper and discuss the implication and also the potential policy action to support the engagement of the private sector in this field. We found a lot of indication regarding how to push the culture in this field, how to involve the different actors, how the company can together put in place collective action in this field. So we think that Italian companies are very engaged in this very important challenge in strong connection with the UN direction in this field. And we are very proud to start from our Global Compact colleagues in the discussion about the implication of this position paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marco. Good day from Amsterdam. It's such a pleasure to be here today at the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit, joined by so many architects of a sustainable future from all over the world. I'm particularly happy to be moderating this session on raising the climate ambition organized by the Global Compact Network Italia. My name is Pietro Bertazzi, and I'm the Global Director of Policy Engagement and External Affairs at CDP, a global not-for-profit organization that runs the world's largest environmental disclosure system for companies, cities, states, and regions around the world. Last year, over 10,000 organizations disclosed data through CDP. Among those, 9,600 companies worth over 50% of the global market capitalization, and over 940 cities, states, regions represented a combined population of over 2.6 billion people. Climate change is a major risk to businesses, along with physical, regulatory risks. Recently, we've been experiencing how customers' awareness and how climate litigation is posing further substantial risks to companies. But there are not only risks, there are opportunities as well. In a recent report focused on climate action in Italy, done by us, but done by CDP, we saw that companies in Italy have identified over 44 billion in climate-related risks, but also 67 billion in potential opportunities. So actually, the opportunities are more than the risks. Net zero is, of course, crucial and is the future, but long-term goals should be coupled with mid-term targets. CDP, we're proud to be a founding member and partner of the Science Based Targets Initiative alongside UN Global Compact, WWF, and WRI. Earlier this year, I think it was January, Science Based Targets Initiative released From Ambition to Input, a report featuring analysis of over 300 companies, including Enel and Salvatore Ferragamo that we have today with us, that show that companies with ambitious science-based targets are delivering Paris-aligned ambition and are delivering emission cuts. This report actually showed that those companies with science-based targets have reduced their combined emission by 25% since 2015, contrasting with an increase of 3.4% in global emissions from energy and industrial processes over the same period. The last point I wanted to start with is that there is no ambition with no disclosure and no ambition with no accountability. We found out that actually companies that disclose climate-related risks along, in compliance with the TCFD, the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, are more likely to set science-based targets. So disclosure is the bedrock of action. But without further ado, let's hear from the companies. And today we have with us 3 representatives of companies. I will ask each one of the representatives 2 questions. And I would like to start with Filippo Rodriguez, Head of Sustainability Italy with Enel. And Filippo, Enel has joint business ambition for 1.5 degrees and has very bold targets towards decarbonization by 2050. How has Enel structured its decarbonization strategy and the commitments?
Thank you. Thank you for having me in this very interesting debate. The story of Enel with decarbonization it's a long story back, in the sense that, as you rightly mentioned, we decided to include Science-Based Targets Initiative in our strategy 2021-2023, with an objective of reducing emission of 80%, direct emissions of 80% of GHG by 2030 compared to 27. Actually, this target that we are presenting now has a long story back, in the sense that the strategy of decarbonization of Enel started, I would say, in 2008, when we launched Enel Green Power. That was our company devoted for renewable energy. At that time, we were like pioneering renewables in the energy sector. And today, Enel is the first private renewable energy operator worldwide. So, to reach the ambition that you just mentioned today, there were some stepping stones that we touched in the last years. First of all, in 2015, when the Paris Agreement was reached, Enel decided to include in its strategy and embody 4 SDGs that at that time were the number 4, number 8, number 7, and number 13. And we decided to take, let's say, concrete and measurable targets on these 4 SDGs. Today, we presented a strategic plan and an investment plan, which is around 40 billion euros in 3 years, from 2021 to 2023. And out of these 40 billion, the 90% is connected to 4 SDGs: 7, renewable energy; 9, innovation and infrastructure; 11, sustainable cities and communities; and of course, the most important one, the final one, concerning an energy company, which is of course climate action and climate change. I believe that this shows the importance that the decarbonization strategy and the commitment for sustainability, is nowadays part and connaturate in our business strategy. If you consider that out of these 39 billion euros, 16 billion are devoted to investment in renewables, and 16 billion are in the modernization, digitalization, and smartness of grids and networks. So, from an environmental standpoint, I would say that almost all the investment plan is connected to the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. On top of that, we declared that by 2027, we will shut down all coal power plants worldwide, and in Italy, we will close them by 2025, according to the Italian plan for environment and climate. So this more or less is the, let's say, ambition and the commitment we have taken in the last year in order to, as you said, have a deep and concrete impact on the decarbonization strategy worldwide. But I would say that in this strategy, there's not only the environmental aspect, but the second one is the social aspect, in the sense that no investment can be considered really effective if we leave someone behind. So it is very important that in investing in these new technologies, in renewables, in new infrastructures, in smart grids, in new services such as like electric mobility, we consider also the social impact that we have on communities and on people. This is why every single investment we are making nowadays, it's also connected to the analysis of the social impact that this investment have on people, especially if it's connected, for instance, in everything related to job loss, the acquisition of new skills. So everything connected to, green jobs and the new opportunities that the energy transition can bring. But also in vitalizing and in developing all the opportunities that you can have around a renewable investment or a low carbon investment. So we also promote, for instance, just to give an example, sustainable tourism. So around our assets, we have also plans to develop sustainable tourism. That in Italy, as you can imagine, this is a very powerful leverage in order to promote sustainable development. So, just in a nutshell, all the aspects in our decarbonization strategy are considered, both them, connected to environmental aspects and social aspects.
Thank you, Filippo. And very important that you explain, this approach that Enel has, which actually builds on what Marco was mentioning. We cannot find solution to the climate crisis without having an holistic approach. Consider the bold, strategy that you have in place and, those targets. I believe that, disclosure is pretty important for you. And I'm aware that Enel was awarded in the A list of the CDP climate scoring. And I wanted to ask you, how does Enel monitor and assess the implementation of the emission reduction targets?
Well, as you perfectly know, it's not useful at all to have a low carbon and sustainability strategy if you cannot measure it. It's the most important block in a decarbonization strategy. This is why, we started in Enel to publish the sustainability report in 2002, so more than 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. In 2019, we integrated the data of our sustainable plan together with the financial information. And in 2020, we published for the first time the integrated report. So we, gave to the market and to the business community and to our stakeholders, at the same time, the financial informations and all the other information connected to the impact that our business model is bringing at social, at environmental, and at the economic level. So, this is the first step, in the sense that without having this precise and concrete way of measuring the impact, which is, I always say that the word impact is the most important word when you think about sustainable business, in the sense that we define our strategy in sustainability, CSV, creating shared value. And when we say it, what do we mean is that you are not really creating value if you are not sharing that value with the community. Intended like business community, but also communities in which you are investing. And the only way to make sure that this impact it's really understood and appreciated by the community, it's having a report that can measure it. On the other hand, there is finance. So on the other hand, we were the first ones issuing green bonds in the market, but also SDGs linked bond. So bond that have the ratio connected to the ability of the company to reach defined targets with defined SDGs. So just in a nutshell, I don't want to be too long, but I mean, these are some of the examples that can I mean, let you understand how important it's for our company and in our strategy to have, let's say, a precise benchmark on which we can measure the impact of the things we are doing.
Many thanks, Filippo. I think, NL has been, NL leadership has been recognized, for many years, and now we hear, the long journey. So it is indeed a journey for everybody, and NL takes advantage of having been on that journey for many years. So thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
I would like to move on to Veronique Cattonini, Chief Risk Officer and Sustainability Coordinator at Salvatore Ferragamo. Salvatore Ferragamo committed to reduce absolute scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emission by 42% by 2029, if I get this right, and as well, to reduce the scope 3 greenhouse gas emission. Salvatore Ferragamo is the first company in Italy in the fashion industry with science-based targets. So I think the eyes are on the company at the moment, and I would like to ask you, Veronica, what is a fashion company's approach to this decarbonization in order to reach also the ambitious goal of reducing greenhouse gas emission in the supply chain? And you signed as well the Fashion Pact. What was the main reason that prompted you to sign the Fashion Pact? The floor is yours, Veronica.
Thank you. I think really that, as you know, the fashion industry has a huge impact on the environment. And we really think as Salvatore Ferragamo that our responsibility is to make sure that we act to protect and safeguard our planet. This is our pillar and is in our commitment. So operating responsibly translate into being aware of our impact, in particular in the moment in which we are looking for creative, innovative, serious solution for mitigate it also. To do so, it's important to set quantitative target, and in particular to collaborate with the entire value chain, because for us it's really important to be connected with the value chain to mitigate the dangerous side effect of our current business as usual. So this is really fundamental for us. On this aspect, we collaborate with our suppliers that have been carefully selected to develop innovative solutions and also to introduce low climate impact materials in our collection. And this is really a huge challenge for our sector, for the fashion industry in general, because it's obvious that we have to build something together with our supplier. And the collaboration is key, and is key also across the entire sector. So for this reason, for example, as you mentioned, in 2019, we decided to join the Fashion Pact. This is because we firmly believe that the collective action is crucial and is more powerful than the action of single players. Fashion Pact is really important because there are main objectives that have been decided and signed to many brands. Following the signing on the Fashion Pact, we decided to also set the science-based target. So this means that as Salvatore Ferragamo, we decided to implement the science-based target methodology. And this means to reduce scope 1, 2, and 3 emission by 2029. And our target is to reduce this emission from 2019 to 2029 by 42%. So we really think that this challenge is a very impactful challenge that we need to bring together with our supplier and with a good collaboration also with the other brands. So Fashion Pact is also really important for collaborate with the other brands.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. And there was something that you mentioned earlier in your presentation related to the fact that you collaborated with other branches within Salvatore Ferragamo to find new materials, for example. So I was just thinking to ask you, how did you manage to involve other business functions besides the sustainability function to create that internal and external culture of the importance of climate? Especially within the fashion industry, can be in the optics, it might look very challenging. Can you shine a light on that?
Yeah, when we started in 2014 with the strategy of sustainability, we decided to create an internal culture, and we believe it's important to create a strong company commitment for sustainability. And really, together with our chairman, Ferruccio Ferragamo, we decided to make sure that various functions are involved in developing action and also initiatives. So what we strongly rely on is our green team, that is a cross-functional working group that has been set up in 2014 when we started sustainability. And it is going to integrate and to promote a corporate responsibility initiative. There are at least 20 functions inside the company that are part of the green team. And the people in the team act as sustainability ambassador. They are capable of developing an effective project and also spreading the culture of sustainability and decarbonization. We have also involved the communication department inside the green team, and you know that we have a museo that is called Museo Salvatore Ferragamo, and also the Museo Salvatore Ferragamo is inside this green team. So this means also that we are capable of developing projects that reach a wider audience, such as a sustainable thinking exhibition that has been held last year in Florence. This goes beyond the company itself, and it allows our people to improve their knowledge on these topics, spread this awareness of importance of taking action. And in particular, this is also due to the fact that we are really integrating the strategy of sustainability inside the business strategy. And to do this integration, we really need to have our plan, that is the strategic plan, completely integrated with the sustainability plan. And also this means that also all the budget of the different functions needs to be completely integrated in the sustainability plan, and all the function needs to be aware of the projects that are important for sustainability inside the company. So this is it's really a method that we have implemented to create an internal and also an external culture on decarbonization, try to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement.
Many thanks, Veronica, for sharing with us, the experience of the green team. And I see kind of, a link, a recurring, word in your presentation and in Filippo's presentation, which is the integration. And we understand that it's crucially important to have, sustainability fully integrated. I think, many companies are, on that, direction. And now, as a matter of fact, the topic of climate being, so important, so central for everybody, I think it is even further, creating that integration, being, climate quite a strong, can pose, quite strong, financial risks on the company. Let's move to David. David Brussa, the Total Quality and Sustainability Director at Illy Café. David, Illy Café has a very big challenge of facing a very complex and impactful supply chain in the agribusiness. I understood that 95% of the greenhouse gas emission of Illy Café are actually Scope 3. So yeah, it would be great to hear from you, how is Illy Café approaching this and what are the actions that the company is implementing to reach a carbon neutrality target by 2033. Very ambitious. Please let us tell us.
Yes, Mr. Bertazzi, I perfectly agree. So Illy Café decided to pursue the carbon neutrality target by 2033. This goal is enormously complex because energy and agricultural models directly impact all the company's work, and therefore considerable redesign and innovation is required to eliminate its impact on the climate. 60% of the company's total emission along the coffee chain derive from the coffee cultivation. So how we decide to move? Firstly, we decide to work on the climate change, pursue the Kyoto Protocol KPIs since 2012. And when at the end of 2018, we reached those targets, we was quite glad. But then we started to measurement all the carbon footprint of the organization, and we realized that the big challenge, the big work has started to go because the total emission really is out of our implants and our factories. So we realized two things. We divided this philosophy that we call Illy Sustainability Framework in like an arrow, where there is the decarbonization of the industrial part, more or less 33%, the decarbonization on the green coffee supply chain. But what we realized that this decarbonization role has to be supported by the social enablers. Human rights, diversity, inclusion, reducing inequality, quality education, health and safety, circular economy are fundamental to sustain the decarbonization process. And what we discovered that the innovation is the driver that moves completely this arrow towards the target. And even if starting to the beginning, we realize looking for the best coffee in the world, so we reach the quality. Equality and sustainability are the two faces of the same coin. We realize that the social aspect is the thickness of this coin. In due to this analysis, we define three principal items. First of all, we started to define with the measurement, hotspot, biospot, to define possible operation efficiency. The second step, we decide to move on the energy transition. Last but not least, due to the fact that Illy Café is a consumable product company, we started to work on design thinking and redesign ecologically LCA low emission packaging. But it is not sufficient to reach the target, and so we decide a new stream about the agroecology or in the supply chain on the green coffee. So we defined a lot of action in this direction, and in the end of the fact, we were able only to verify more or less 9 macro areas of working. Working on the tin plate on the packaging, because we use a lot of packaging in tin plate because we exported the coffee in 140 countries in the world. So we need that our quality has to be maintained for a very long shelf life for all the transport for all the world. The second, due to the fact that we use plastic packaging, we are still moving to define which is the new possibility by the research and development to bioplastic or compostable plastic. that could be another solution in order to reduce this environmental impact. Last but not least, we are not able to work always alone, and we are starting to work with all our supply footprint optimization, because the suppliers are the first chain on the long chain on the sustainability. Then from the operation efficiency, we move both internally, because we are still moving to buy the 100% of renewable energy, and we are also to project to produce internally the energy by the 3 generation projects. But again, last year we launched on the market a new eco-design machine for prepared espresso that reduced more than 40% the energy consumption towards the standard models. A machine that is every time cold and only eats the water just for your espresso or your coffee cup. Last but not least, we are still moving to reduce all the resourcing that we are still using in order to avoid any scrap and any dispersion. Last but not least, then we move on the further part, because we are analyzed all the transport in inbound, because we import the coffee, the green coffee, from more than 20 countries on the world, and the outbound toward the 114 countries. And this side, we are still moving on with the big leaders in the world on the shipping and transport, by road, by tire, and by ship, and also by airplanes. Not only for the goods, but for the people, because obviously we have also some traveling that this year was must reduced by the COVID period. Last but not least, we are still moving in a new process of roasting, because we realize and we test and we approve a very high efficiency, the fluid bed roasting, that reduced more than 30% the energy consumption. Last but not least, as soon as we are defined the correct path on this factory of Illy, we are going to move in the same project and the same solution in the other factories that Illy produced the coffee, one in Milan and one in Spain. Yeah. In the other side, for the coffee production, we are defining a long journey. First of all, try to increase the possibility to reduce the resources that they are still using in the culture, in the agriculture of green coffee. Starting some tests in order to demonstrate that we can reduce the inorganic natrium fertilization. That, as you know, the nitrogen fertilization is the hotspot important, more or less the 70% in the agricultural impact. Then we are moving from some precision farming actions in order to use as much as less part that the plant need in order to be in wellness and in the correct yield and in the quality of the product, in order to avoid the scrap and the overlapping of too much fertilization without any effect. Then also we are moving with some project in order to create a measured biodiversity with the inter-row and intercropping solution. Last but not least, we are still moving on some substitution of from inorganic natrium, calcium, potassium, and phosphorus in organic natrium, phosphorus, and calcium, and potassium, in order that we can reduce and give to the plant directly in order to increase the scrap and the directly emission that this previously inorganic substances can produce. Obviously, it's a very long journey. This journey on the green coffee supply chain has to be set specifically on the different origins, because some solution that you can apply, for instance, in Brazil, is not applicable in Ethiopia or in Guatemala, and vice versa. And for this reason, we started with a free plantation to managing directly by my colleagues, technicians, to control and start to move in a primary measurement of our agroeconomic practices that we are going to put in place. It's a long journey, because every time that you want to test one step, you have to wait at least 3 years. But this is the life nature.
David, thank you so much. Actually, I wanted to ask you something related to the topic of nature, but you definitely touched upon that already. So the question for you will be at this stage, and I don't want to put you under the spotlight, but a bit. You're doing so much. You are really you are in this fantastic journey, and the impact that you're already having is quite substantial over the supply chain. Are you considering to set science-based targets? Is that something that you're looking at?
Yes, we are going to start this new travel maybe in the end of this year, because we must measurement and try to be recognized in what we are going to do. Even if we have obtained 1 month ago the B Corp certification, but it is more connected with all the strategic point of view, the social, people, community, and environmental. But from this key point, the Science-Based Target Initiative, in our opinion, is the first step that we must put in place. For 2 reasons. First of all, in order to guarantee that what we are doing are exactly in the right direction that we are going to pursue. And then, in order to be every time monitoring what is our benefit or what is our solution that we are going to put in place, because the system that we are going to develop, most of them are not available currently ready to the market. So again, there are some innovation solutions that maybe on the paper you have some crucial benefit. Only and then the energy point of view, we have a quite clear scenario of the benefit, cost, benefit, and CO2 equivalent avoided. But for the other reason, packaging, first of all, on the green coffee supply chain, this must be very, very, very difficult. So yes. Science-Based Target Initiative, we have already decided to pursue, is the best solution that we are going to put in place in the near future.
Sounds really, really promising. Thank you, David. And I remember we hosted actually a side event to the COP25 in Madrid. What was it? 2019, of course. And we had, Mr. Illy presenting along with the Italian Minister of Environment, Sergio Costa, at that point. So, it's great to have you on this journey, and we will welcome you in the family of the science-based targets. Super insightful. Thank you, Filippo. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, David. And I would like now to pass the floor to Daniela Bernacchi, the Executive Director of Global Compact Network Italia, for the conclusive remarks. Thank you so much for the discussion. Daniela, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Thank you to the speaker and to the moderator as well for this interesting session. We heard a very important discussion today, and we touch key crucial points on decarbonization. Let me sum up just 3 aspects that were recurrent in your speeches. First of all, the social dimension. The transition has to be a just transition. And it's important that all companies engaged towards decarbonization also have an attention on what the European taxonomy calls the social safeguard. That means the impact we have, the one Filippo was saying, the social impact we have, and do not harm principle towards people. So no one has to be left behind. The other aspects I would like to underline is, again, innovation. Davide Brussa talked a lot about the importance of innovation and revisit process and operation towards decarbonization. And we think that this is a good example to share today. And it's important to invest in new technology and innovation to fight the climate change. And the third aspect I would like to underline is the one that Ferragamo brought to us, so the importance of a culture. We have to involve our value chain, our supply chain, and also work on internal and external culture. And I really appreciate all the work of the Green Team and the sustainability ambassadors towards this effort in involving the community as well, and not only our employee on the importance of the issues. So we know in Italy, and with Pietro, we've commented some data that we have 21 companies committed to science-based target. and only set as the target approved. So there is a long way to go. Assessing the carbon footprint and setting the targets is a good way to start our engagement. And unfortunately, too many companies worldwide pledge they will eliminate their carbon emission by 2050 without explaining how they will do it. We know that the New Climate Institute published a report saying that only 8% of the companies with net zero targets have also interim targets. So if we don't monitor a short-term plan, then it's very difficult we get there. So United Nations Global Compact together with the local network, and I'm very proud today as Italian local network to be here with you, encourage companies to meet, share best practice, and we offer learning opportunities as the one we have today in order that all the companies can reach their goal. Today we are the free excellence in our country, and very, very good company engaged on climate and decarbonization. And we hope these companies will be a stimulus, not only for Italian companies, but for all over the world. And we are confident that events like the Leader Summit will encourage other companies to join Science-Based Target, to join the effort and raise the ambition for the future of the planet and the prosperity of the next generation that are the ones that are waiting for us some kind of solution. So thanks again to everyone and have a nice evening. See you at the next Leader Summit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.